right now is 24 minutes to 9, and on the line is art critic Pamela Kember. Good morning.
Yes, hi, Stacey.
Hello. Right, so we spoke a little bit earlier, and you told me that you've been to 2 photographic exhibitions.
Well, yes, it's interesting that at the same time we're looking at a rise in photography in Hong Kong, despite the fact that we don't have any either centre for photography or any art gallery devoted solely to the subject, or medium, I should say, except for perhaps the Fringe Club with their photo gallery. But there is an interesting and quite poignant connection today with the fact that one of, I guess, the greatest photographers of all time, Henri Cartier-Bresson, who passed away earlier this month, had his decisive moment. That was his important phrase that he used as a sense of why he was wanting to capture everyday life in and around the regions and areas of France and Paris. And he said that it's like hunting, his famous skill for catching his subjects at precisely the right moment. And I know today it's become a bit of a cliche to talk about photography as capturing the moment, but really Henri Cartier-Bresson, when he first started out back in the early 1900s, was somebody who had an incredible ability for an instance in black and white. So he really became a pioneering photojournalist who said yes to life, really, in all of his pictures. And the decisive moment is a famous exhibition of his back in 1952 at the Louvre in Paris, and actually recently toured in southern Seoul in Korea. So the decisive moment has become a kind of catchphrase and fits quite nicely in with the exhibition at the Agnes Gallery.
Well, let me just stop you there. Are we going to get a chance to see that exhibition? Will it be coming to Hong Kong?
Yes, what a shame. I don't know, but I haven't heard anything of it coming. If anybody does know, please let us know. But at the moment, I haven't heard of it coming to Hong Kong, which is a great shame because really he is an extraordinary, even though he hated having his own picture taken, he said he sort of found it was the inner look that must be revealed of the thousands of people he's taken over the years. So yes, I mean, but what I'm thinking is, at least here in Hong Kong, there's another French individual, Agnes Bay, who's really been leading the way to show young talent in Hong Kong through her gallery in Elgin Street. She also has her name put to the, I think it's showing films at the Hong Kong Art Centre, the Agnes Bay Cinema. So really she's somebody who's been able to see herself, because she actually curates the exhibitions for her space all the way from Paris, that a young man in Hong Kong, Galen Tse, has been, although he's self-trained, has been working for the last decade in putting together some very interesting moments of his own.
Mm-hmm. And
that's the title of the exhibition, The Moment, so it's almost like a nod to Henri Cartier-Bresson. And really he's looking at photos as a story. It's a narrative for him of his everyday life, like a storyboard. He gives people or audiences a journey, as he's also a filmmaker, a kind of cinematic aspect to his work. And these are 9 individual story exhibits which make up different concepts that he's had for a while, following, for example, a young female dancer in a studio, and you can kind of quietly see through the reflection of the mirror the photographer taking images of her. But as she's turning in space very slowly, he really has got a dynamism there in some of the images that he's captured. Very subtle, quite quiet, and he puts a little bit of text against each of the images as if he's reflecting himself on some of his own personal moments and silent places. So it's a kind of image and text idea in the lower part of the Agnes Bay Gallery.
And so I was going to ask if there was any sort of special photographic technique that he uses. But,
yes.
Are we looking at just normal photographs that anyone would take, but of course, telling the story, or are we talking about something that he's creating in a more artistic manner?
Yes, you're right. He's actually using a pinhole camera, which is a small has no lens, and it's either in a small tight can or a box with a black interior and a tiny hole in the center at one end. So really it's a very simple mechanism for taking photographs, but I actually like the idea that there's no frills in this. What inspires him is really interesting in capturing movement. And in fact, stillness becomes another aspect of his work, because in the upper level of the gallery, as you come in, he's got some really beautiful, I think stunning still life images of even a fragile, spiky little plant with wispy grass. I know it sounds a little bit naive and cliche, but it really is something so intimate and detailed that you're just drawn to having a look at it and wondering not just about the image itself, but about life itself within that those small, tiny little leaves. And then there's a root tree spreading like a network along the ground, and it's as if it's still thriving and trying to grasp life as it pushes its way, meandering roots along the ground. And I find those two actually as interesting as some of his human studies. So it's varied, and it's worth a look, because I think it's a way to get into his work. And he is a self-trained artist. I mean, his background is in a lot of different areas as a photographer, an artist, a cinematographer. He's worked in several stage performances and drama. So movement, drama, and the visual image has become, I think, images that he creates through this exhibition, which he calls The Moment, at Agnes Bay Library Gallery in Elgin Street.
And how long is this on for?
This is on until the 26th of September, so not really that much longer the rest of this week, or actually until Wednesday, so today and tomorrow.
The 26th of August.
Of September, I'm sorry, I'm getting my dates wrong.
Okay, so we've got
another month. That's right.
Okay.
And I think that leads me on to the fact that there are other exhibitions in the city that are concentrated